Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to look specifically this evening at what is known as the Parsha of Teshuva in the Torah, which begins the beginning of Perek Lamed Pasuk Aleph. We're trying to understand, as the title suggested, is there is a certain mystery behind Teshuva, how it works, and essentially Teshuva itself, the concept of Teshuva is something of a nace, it's something of a miracle. The fact that a person can do something and it can be erased through doing Teshuva correctly is a remarkable thing. And the Torah saw the source in the Torah for Teshuva, as understood by the Rishonim, as we'll see, at least by a number of Rishonim, is this parsha in the Torah. What is important to understand is that the whole idea and the notion itself is a revolutionary idea. Rabbi Sachs writes a lot about this, how the whole concept of forgiveness is something which is only introduced in the Torah after there is a parsha which describes how people are able to forgive each other. The end of the whole episode of Mechiras Yosef, at the end, very, very end of Sefer Bereshis, when the brothers are able to say to Yosef, Yosef, is able to say to the brothers that it was part of Hashem's plan. It wasn't something which it was meant to be this way. So he points out that is only after then that you find the concepts of mechila, of forgiveness, that begin to play such a huge part in the Torah, as in, of course, Egel Hazov, and there on after that. But the first recorded episode in the Torah where one human being forgives another is at the end of Sefer Bereshis. Beforehand, you don't find forgiveness as such. You find forms of appeasement, like Yaakov and Esau, for example. So the notion of being able to actually erase something through the process of tshuva is itself a remarkable and incredible chiddush. Now, I'm going to take you through initially something, parts of the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar, as I said, Perek Lamed Pasuk Aleph. The Kli Yakar says we need to understand what it is that the Torah uses two different words here. The Pesukim say, everything has transpired, the blessing and the curse. You shall return in your heart. Literally, that means that Hashem has pushed you away there. So there are two words used, because a few Pesukim later, Pasuk Bey says, when you return to Hashem, your God, and then your Pasuk Gimel, Hashem will bring back your, if you like, your captives, your captivity, and will have mercy on you. But then you have the word Asher Fitzcha, amongst all the nations that he has scattered you. So in Pasuk Aleph, you have the word Asher Dichacha, he's pushed you away. And then in Pasuk Gimel, you have the words Asher Fitzcha, scattered you. And what is the difference between these two words? Says the Kli Yakar, the word Hefitzcha is referring to Golus itself, the actual process of exile, that the Klal Yisrael being exiled because of their averos. Hidichacha, to push away, is specific to do with the mitzvahs themselves. In other words, the very fact that Klal Yisrael are in Golus means that they are, as he puts it, nidochim min ha-mitzvahs. They are pushed away from mitzvahs, either because of the fact that it says in the Torah itself, "Va'avadatem shom Elohim acherim," you will worship there the gods of others. In other words, you will be forced to, or at least work for those who worship idols, or because of the fact that the majority of mitzvahs, as he puts it, depend in some way, are connected to Eretz Yisrael. Now, so in other words, according to Kli Yakar, we have two separate things here. On the one hand, the Golus is literal Golus, being exiled, scattered amongst the nations. On the other hand, there's also Hidichacho. There's a form of being pushed away from doing mitzvahs. In a sense, that Hidichacho, that inability to perform mitzvahs properly, brings with it a great danger. What is the danger? Explains the Kli Yakar. Because Klal Yisrael are pushed away, so to speak, from being able to perform mitzvahs properly, they can come to make the mistake, the error, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want their actions anymore, that Hashem isn't interested in their ma'asim. Like it says, he brings the pasuk in Yeshayahu, Lomali rov zivcheichem, Mar Hashem, right? Haftarah for Shabbos Chazon. Why should I have all of these korbanos that you want to? Do I want them? And what will happen as a result is there's a concern they might give up hope entirely from Geula, from ever being coming back to Eretz Yisrael, ever being forgiven, because they will say to themselves, well, Hashem is preventing us doing mitzvahs. It must be He doesn't want our mitzvahs anymore. But, says the Kli Yakar, that's the mistake. That is a fundamental mistake. Because the idea was not to prevent them doing mitzvahs. It's just that that was an inevitable outcome of being scattered. The exile, the golus, takes them out of Eretz Yisrael into difficult circumstances, and therefore they're prevented from doing mitzvahs, but not that Hashem doesn't want the mitzvahs anymore. And this is very important, says the Kli Yakar, because now we can understand exactly what the Parsha is saying, and it helps us understand the process of Teshuva itself. I'm now in the third paragraph, if you read a little bit of it inside, third paragraph in the Kli Yakar, if you're following him across Gedolos. He says, this is what this Parsha means. Etc., etc. Everything happens, it all transpires, the terrible curses that come to pass. And then it says, and you reflect in your heart. What do you reflect in your heart? What is the matter that you reflect in your heart? You reflect on the fact that Hashem seems to have prevented you performing mitzvahs. And you reflect and you think to yourself, well, it must be that Hashem doesn't want my mitzvahs anymore. But the reality is, and therefore what happens? Says the Kli Yakar, you give up hope from doing Teshuva. Because you'll say, had Hashem wanted us, He would never prevent us doing mitzvahs in this way. And therefore, says the Torah, that's a mistake. That's not true. Rather, on the contrary, it all depends on the next word, the words in the next pasuk. If you return to Hashem Elokecha, if you do that process of tshuva, that tshuva shlema, you come back to Hashem, even if you haven't actually done anything in practice. He says, okay? It doesn't yet say in this pasuk the words v'osiso es kol mitzvosov. It says that a number of pasukim later, actually in pasuk ches, it says there in pasuk ches, v'atoso shuv v'shamata b'kol Hashem v'osiso es kol mitzvosov. You shall do his mitzvahs. Doesn't say that here, because the initial stage, all it needs is that resolution to do the right thing. That's what tshuva, the essence of tshuva. Of course, all the process we know that tshuva involves, and vidui and everything else. But the fact is that it doesn't necessarily, even if a person hasn't yet had the opportunity to do all those mitzvahs in the right way, even so, the very fact that a person is v'shavta, that you change your mind, you do the right thing, that is itself enough to make all the difference. It's not just, you don't have to do, even if you haven't done anything, the very fact that you've changed your mind, changed your ways, decided to do the right thing, that's enough. And you've decided to listen to his voice. And that is why there's this emphasis, says the Kli Yakar, in this pasuk. And really, I think it's a number of times throughout this parsha, this idea of b'chol levavcha. You return with all your heart, right? With all your heart. Because essentially, when it's what it means, this idea of b'chol levavcha, this end of pasuk base, b'chol levavcha chol nafshecha, that's the main process of tshuva. The main process of tshuva is to develop this leiv chodosh, a new heart. Think of doing things in a new way, a better way. Then he explains, why does it say twice in the Torah v'shov? What is the v'shov? There are two words v'shov. If you look at the psukim, you've got pasuk Gimel says v'shov Hashem Elokecha shavuscha. They're both in the same pasuk. V'shov Hashem Elokecha shavuscha b'richamecha. Hashem will return as shavuscha, and He will give you, and He will. That means the exiles themselves, and He will have mercy on you. Richamecha v'shov v'kibetzcha mikol amim, and then He will return and He will gather you from the nations. What are these two v'shov? Says the Kli Yakar. Number one is talking about the mechilas ha'ovin, the forgiveness of the sin, which and that's the reference to he says shavuscha. You see the phrase in Nach, that shavuvonim shovovim, backsliding, do the wrong thing. So the first v'shov is the actual forgiveness of the avera, and the fact that it itself can become a zchus. The second one, he says, is talking about Shivas Yisrael min Golus. The second one is actually about returning Klal Yisrael from Golus. And that's what it means when it says in the second one. That's what it means when it says in the second time it's mentioned in the same pasuk. After you've done the first process of tshuva, you've come close to Hashem, and Hashem has forgiven your averos, then you will have the zchus to be redeemed from Golus itself. And then the point is that let me read you a few lines of what he says inside. He says, this is towards the end of this piece. This is referring to the returning of Klal Yisrael from Golus. That's for Shavak Yibetz Chomekolo Amim, from all the peoples. Not as you thought, that Hashem wants you not to keep the Torah. No. That's why the second time you have this emphasis on the Kibetzcha Mekol Amim Asher Hefitzcha, because now it's telling you the real reason you went. You thought, Pasuk Aleph, that you were in the nations because Asher Hedichacho, Hashem has forsaken you, doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore, doesn't want your mitzvahs. That's Asher Hedichacho, pushed you away. But the reality is, when it talks about Hashem bringing you back, it says Asher Hefitzcha. Very clever. Asher Hefitzcha. Hashem, it's the real reason you went was to scatter you because you had to go into Golus. But it wasn't because Hashem didn't want you to keep mitzvahs. And even if the reality is that you feel as if you are pushed away, it is simply being able to be v'hashivoso el levavecha, just to transform your own heart. That is enough to make all the difference. The process of tshuva. So the Kli Yakar helps us understand the sequence of the psukim here, and also reveals to us, I think, that as we know, and it's just self-evident, that the biggest stumbling block to tshuva is the self-defeat, right? The self-defeat, self-belief, or the lack of self-belief. The person says, I can't do this, I can't do it, I can't change. Change is so difficult to do. A person, that's the idea of Asher Dichacho. Asher Dichacho is the reflection of individual Jews themselves in Golus saying, Hashem has pushed me away. Hashem doesn't want my mitzvahs. I can't change. There's nothing I can do. Hashem turns around when you just do the tshuva balev, even if you just do tshuva in the heart, and Hashem says, no, that's not true. You had to go into Golus, Asher Fitzcha, you were scattered, but the reality is there's always a pathway back. That's the Kli Yakar. Now the Ramban, Perek Lamed Posuk Yud Aleph, a few psukim later, because we have the continuation of this parsha with the very famous psukim, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois, asher nechim etzavach hayom, lo nefleisim mimcha, it's not far away from you, v'lo rechoy kahi, it's not far away. It's not high, it's not hidden. The place is hidden. It's not hidden from you. It's not far away. Lo v'shamayim hi leimor. It's not in Shamayim to say miyal elonu ha-shamayim. So you have to say who's going to go up to Shamayim and get it for us. Yikocher alonu, take it for us. V'yashmienu osah, and let us know v'na'asena, and we will keep it. V'lo me'ever hayomi, it's on the other side of the sea. Leimor mi yavor lonu el ever hayom. Who will cross over to the other side of the sea? V'yikocher alonu, and take it for us. V'yashmienu osah v'na'asena ki karo ve'lecha hadover ma'od. Because it's very close to you. These beautiful psukim explaining how it's so there. It's there. It's right in front of you. But as we know, there is a debate. There is a machlokas amongst the Rishonim. What it's referring to? What is this mitzvah hazos? What is this mitzvah? Let's see the Ramban. The Ramban is a very short Ramban. The Ramban says that when the Torah says, there are those who understand ki mitzvah hazos is the whole Torah. Is the whole Torah. The entire Torah, it's very close to you, it's accessible. Kol Torah Kule says. V'hanochan, however, he says that the correct interpretation is Ki al Kol Torah Yomar. With the whole Torah, we find the phrase Kol mitzvah asher nechim etzavach v'hayom. All the mitzvah that I command you today. So we do find about the whole Torah the word mitzvah in the singular used. But here it says, Aval mitzvah hazos, this mitzvah. What is this mitzvah? Al hatshuva hanizkeres. This is on tshuva that has just been mentioned. That is this mitzvah. Because he says, Ki v'hashivosa el levavecha, the doing tshuva in your heart, V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha. I'm returning to Hashem. Mitzvah sheyitzava osanu la'asos kein. That's a command. Hashem is giving us a direct command to do so. So he asked then the obvious question, just understanding the psukim. If it's a mitzvah, it's a tzivui, you should do tshuva. So why is it that it's phrased as v'hashe vosa el levavecha? You will do this. You will. That would seem to imply that it's prophetic in the sense that this will happen in the future, but not that it's a mitzvah command to tell you to do it. Says the Ramban. No, what it means is it's a hint that it will happen. There's a promise that it will happen. And why is that? Says the Ramban. The reason is lema to say the same word. If you are nidachacho, if you are pushed away, even at the ends of the heavens, you're in the hands of the nations, you're under the thumb of others, tuchal l'shuv el Hashem. You're allowed to return to Hashem, and to do according to everything that I'm commanding you today. Because it's not far away, it's not hidden. It's close to you to do all the time, every time and every place. In other words, this mitzvah is unique, says the Ramban. Ki ha-mitzvah azos refers to the mitzvah of tshuva. And these psukim are the clarification, the explanation of the parsha of tshuva that's gone before. If you're going to ask why the Torah phrases it in this way, as if it's a promise for the future, you will do this, rather than saying, as with all other mitzvahs, you must do this. The answer is, Ki ha-mitzvah hazos lo nifleisim mimcha v'lo rechoka. It's right here. It's here. It's accessible. You can do it. Doesn't matter how far you think you've gone, it's going to happen. You will be able to do it. It's a promise. The opportunity will arise to be able to do it. The Kli Yakar also links back to how he explained the original psukim here. And he says that agrees as well that these psukim refer to the mitzvah of tshuva itself. And he says, what does it mean, lo nifleisim mimcha? It's not hidden from you. Ki ein lecha hisnatzlus loima. You've got no excuse, he says, to say ki lo yodato shekadosh baruch hu mekabel tshuvas hachotim. You didn't know that Hashem could receive the tshuva of the sinners. Ki ato yodato inyan hatshuva yosem min kol ha'omos. He says, because you know the notion of tshuva more than any other nation, because both Hashem created the Klal Yisrael and tshuva before the world itself was created. So you were there with tshuva when it was first created by Hashem. And even though we find with the nations of the world needed particular encouragement to do tshuva. The classic example is Nineveh, Yonah sent to get them to do tshuva. You know exactly what tshuva is. And you know that it's not Hashemayim. You know that it's right here with you. And then he says, and we can also understand that it goes on those psukim, v'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha. As the Kli Yakar understood before, that the biggest obstacle to tshuva is a person saying, I'm hopeless, my case is hopeless. V'im Toma, says the Kli Yakar, my sins have caused such terrible things that the Shechina has departed and gone up to Shemayim and left us. If so, how can I possibly, even if I go back towards Hashem, how will he come closer to me? Because I'm so far away, in every sense, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, it's all hidden, it's concealed. I'm not going to be able to come close to him. That's the concern. The answer is, Lo nifleisi mimcha. It's not hidden from you. It's not hidden, even from you. You don't need to go up to Shemayim. Just when you do that process of tshuva balev, you understand and take heart and resolve to do the right thing, that itself is enough. That itself is enough to draw you close to Hashem. One final little idea from the Kli Yakar I'd like to share with you, because I think it will have a direct impact on a key phrase that we use in our tefillas, particularly over in slichas. It's a very common phrase that we use in our tefillas. The Kli Yakar explains it beautifully. He says, what does it mean, lo rechoka? What does it mean that it's not far away? What does that mean? So he says that the idea is that mimcha, he says, from you, it's not far away at all. in truth, if we think about the concept of tshuva, we think about how far away we are from Hashem, how lofty Hashem is compared to us, we should be 1,000,000 miles away. But the reality is that lo rechoka hi mimcha. It's not hidden because of who you are. What are you? He says, Al derech shenemar zochar ki ofar anochnu. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. We say all the time in our tefillas. Remember ki ofar anochnu. What does that mean? Zochar, remember ki ofar anochnu. We say all the time. Remember that we are dust. What does that mean? Says the Kliyakar, it's a defense of our position. Remember that. You can't have a person on earth who does good and does not sin. And therefore, that itself is a reason for Hashem to accept our tshuva. It's a part of our tefillah. Zochar, remember ki ofar anachnu, we're dust. We have a tendency towards doing the wrong thing. We have the ability easily to slip up. Because Zochar ki ofar anachnu, therefore we're close to him. In other words, lo rechoka, the reason why it is not far away, the reason why this mitzvah is not far away, because he's going back also on the lo niflesi mimcha. Lo niflesi, it's not far away, mimcha, it's not hidden, from you, because of who you are, because of the nature of who we are, the fact that we are made of dust. Therefore, Hashem is close to us, because Hashem understands the fact that we can slip up, and therefore gives us opportunities to come back to him. The obvious question in all this, though, is that if tshuva is so straightforward, it's a promise that it will happen wherever we are, tshuva is going to happen, and it's not far away. It's not far away from you. It's right here. This mitzvah, it's opportunity. So why is it so difficult? Why is tshuva so hard? Why is it so hard to change? Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. He asked this kasha. He says the words kol rea yishtoimim. Everyone will be astonished at this. If it's so easy to do tshuva, why does no one do it? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult to find true Baalei tshuva? And we all struggle every year, and it's really, really hard to actually make changes in what we do. Why is that? If it's so close to us, if we're understanding these psukim, ki ha-mitzvah azos is so close to you as the mitzvah of tshuva, so why is it so difficult? Says Chaim Shmulevitz, beautiful words. He says like this. This is the explanation. Kachu bir ha'inyan. Asono shel ha'adam. He says the tragedy of a person, the tragedy of humankind, is because human beings become accustomed to their current state, their current situation. Doesn't matter what that state is, doesn't matter how bad, how low it is, we always are very, very good at becoming accustomed to how we live and how we do things. So he makes peace with every single situation one is in. So that's what hergel is. Hergel is becoming used to one state, one situation. And therefore, because we become used to how we are, we don't feel there's any need to do tshuva. If we would suddenly see, if we would suddenly see the reality of our situation when we're going to, he will be awakened to do tshuva immediately and be transformed into another person. It's like, he says, it's comparable to someone who walks in darkness and blindness and doesn't believe in the mortality of human beings. All of a sudden, God forbid, a person is presented with their own mortality. And he brings a number of very fascinating examples where we find this notion of what he calls tardemas hahergel, the slumber, like we sleepwalk as a result of how we become used to living. He brings a Gemara in Sota, very well-known Gemara, where there's a debate going on at the moment of the Kvura of Yaakov Avinu. You're all familiar with the story. And Esav comes and disputes it. He disputes the Kvura of Yaakov. He says, no, I'm the Bukhar. I need. He says, even though you saw, he says, he says, I'm entitled to this burial plot. And they said, what do you mean you sold it? And he said, no, I sold the Bukhara, but I didn't sell everything. I still have my right as a son. And then he says, no, it says, Yaakov said, I paid for this. I paid for this kever. So he says to them, bring me Havuli Igursa, bring me a letter, he says to them, prove it. So they say, what do you mean? The letter's in Egypt. You can't get it. It's in Mitzrayim. Who's going to go? So they said, La, we'll send Naphtali. Naphtali is going to go. He's bringing the letter from Mitzrayim. He's going to rush back. And then he fast runner. Naphtali is a fast runner. He's going to run back. And then we're going to prove that, in fact, the burial plot belongs to Yaakov, our father. What happens? Chushim, the son of Don, is over there. And Chushim was hard of hearing. Chushim was deaf. And he said, what's going on? He didn't understand what had gone on. And they said to him, they explained that this was happening because we're waiting for Naphtali to get back from Mitzrayim. So he said to them, hold on a second. What? While Naphtali is running to Mitzrayim, you're going to leave him without burial? You're going to leave Yaakov B'Bizayin in such disgrace? Immediately he takes something, he takes some weapon, and he knocks off Esav's head. We're familiar with the story. Says Chaim Parsha, it's a beautiful, simple kasha. It's astonishing. How could it not be that they're all there, all of the brothers, all the sons of Yaakov, and no one asks Chushim's question? No one says, hold on a minute, we're going to leave Yaakov Avinu here while Naphtali runs all the way to Mitzrayim, all the way back. It's amazing. No one thought of it except Chushim ben Don. None of the others thought, are we really going to accept such a situation? We're going to let someone go back from Mitzrayim and come back. How could they allow such a thing? Says Chaim Parsha, you know why? Because they started arguing with Esau. And with each argument they said, they thought, we'll get him this time. We're going to be victorious. And from word to word and question to question, Yaakov was left in Bizayin. And they became used to the situation of Yaakov being left in Bizayin, in disgrace. They become used to that situation. They become accustomed to it because that's the teva, that is the nature of human beings. They become accustomed to anything in life, even something as tragic as leaving Yaakov Avinu there unburied. They are getting used to it. And they just forget. They obviously see him there, but they become accustomed already to leaving the situation as it is. Chushim ben Don doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't hear the situation. He immediately chaps. He immediately sees how wrong the situation is. How can it be left like this? And he jumps in and transforms the situation. Same thing we find with Rabbi Eliezer ben Dordia, the famous story, who committed these terrible averos and suddenly has a moment of reflection. He does terrible averos, one after the other in the area of znus, and all of a sudden, bang, he suddenly sees how wrong his situation is. Because, says Chaim Parsha, you have this tardema sahergel, the sleeping through life, the sleepwalking through life, which prevents us doing tshuva. But the flip side of it is that the tiniest thing can actually change the whole situation. If a person is suddenly wakes up, has that light bulb moment, that flash of inspiration to realize that in fact they can change, then it's kikara velecha adova ma'od. Then it's right here. It's right with you. It's right next to you at that particular moment. Finishes off with one final Gemara. Listen to this. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, Machas Rabbi Alexandri, man boy chai. Rabbi Alexandri used to announce, who wants life? Who wants life? And everyone came and said, oh, we'd like life. Thank you very much. We'd love life. And he says to them, who is the one who wants life? Don't speak evil. Okay? He's explaining the pasuk. That's all he's doing. Whoever wants life should make sure that they don't speak Lashon Hara. So why did he not just show them the pasuk? Why did he shout and say, man boy chai, who wants life? The answer is, because they would have read that pasuk, as we all have, hundreds and hundreds of times. Say every Shabbos morning, who wants life? But because of the hergel, because of the natural, we're used to doing something, we don't think about it. But when he asked them and turned around, man boy chai, who wants life? Everyone jumped up and said, oh, I'd love life. You're offering life. Of course I want life. And then he just simply read the pasuk to them. So the beauty of tshuva, and it is the mystery of tshuva, is that it's something so simple and so easy, and yet it feels so far away because we're so used to how we live. And it's the slightest and smallest change which really allows us to engage, to grasp tshuva with both hands. And when we do so, we can really experience what is that miracle of tshuva. The idea, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when you return to Hashem, can make everything as if it hasn't happened. The idea that we're able to rewrite history in this way, the gift of tshuva, that is the focus of this parsha. Wish you all a very good Shabbos. Thank you very much for joining.
Shkoyach. Beautiful. Shkoyach. Shkoyach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Good evening.
Rabbi.